Good evening, fellow YouTubers, and welcome back to ReeYees Retro Toys. On today's Halloween episode, we dig through the dirt and uncover the top 5 scariest vintage toy lines of the 80s. Come on, kiddies, we're dying to meet you.
Supernaturals! Now you can join the battle between brave Lionheart and evil Skull and their eerie ghostling.
Supernaturals were released by Tonka in 1986. Unlike most toy lines in the 80s, Supernaturals did not have a tie-in cartoon or comic book series. The figures were packaged with mini comics to help explain the origins and characters. The radically 80s features of this toy were the hologram stickers that were used to portray each figure's appearance, as well as glow-in-the-dark accessories. 6 regular-sized figures were produced, each with a removable chest piece that kept the sticker hidden away until the child revealed the ghost, mummy, or skeleton inside. For parents on a budget, they also produced 8 smaller Ghostlings figures, each with different stickers, but with the same figure mold.
Supernaturals. Lionheart, Skull, and Ghostling sold separately. New from Tonka.
So number 5 on our list of top scariest vintage toy lines is Supernaturals from Tonka. Here are a few of my figures that I have. These are all forces for evil. I don't have any of the good guys, actually. This is Skull, Snakebite, and Bernhardt. And I'm going to do a quick close-up of these guys for you so you can see how they change with the different light. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, what boy would not like these figures back in the day, right? Who wouldn't like them now? Here's Bernhardt. His sticker's a little muddled at this point. And then Snakebite, I actually have his shield as well as his helmet. And then you can take the chest piece off here. It's kind of like an old man. Turns into a snake. Very cool figures. Then I also have a couple of the Ghostlings on card. This is Spooks. This is the only one I had as a child. But the funny thing is I only had the green cloak part. I did not have the ghostly insert. So he actually looked like a ghost when I had him as a kid. You can see his ghost hologram there. And he's kind of like an elf or like a jester. These were the less expensive kind of Supernaturals back in the day. There's the back of the card that advertised the other Ghostlings. And here is my other one. This is Mr. Lucky. His bubble's pretty yellowed, but I think you can kind of see him in there as well. Hard to see. So there we have the Supernaturals.
My Pet Monster was the creation of the American Greetings Company in 1986. The toy was a large blue plush monster with breakaway chains that the child could also wear. A direct-to-video live-action film was released in 1986 that attempted to explain the origins of this lovable creature. Additionally, a cartoon series was produced in 1987 and aired on ABC for 13 episodes.
My Pet Monster has breakaway chains from M-Toy and American Greetings Company.
So next up on our list is My Pet Monster. Now, I don't know if you guys had one of these as a kid, but I certainly did not. My parents did not spend the money on this guy. But for those fortunate enough to have a My Pet Monster back in the day, you know he was just a fantastic toy to have as a boy. You had these breakaway handcuffs and chains that were attached to him with Velcro. Obviously you could put on yourself, and so it had some fun features to it. This one I got from the flea market, and a lot of the times his handcuffs are missing and his hands become kind of like chipped away and sticky over the time. You can see there's a little bit of wear on his hands, but all in all, a very cool toy for any boy that wanted to carry around your own monster, and for those fascinated with horror and the macabre, even at a young age. You had My Pet Monster as your tag-along buddy.
Inhumanoids was a cartoon and toy line released by Hasbro in 1986. The story centered on a group of humans called Earth Corps fighting against ghastly monsters called Inhumanoids. The cartoon began as 6 to 7 minute long shorts that aired during the Super Sunday cartoon block alongside Jem and the Holograms. The shorts were then pieced together to form the original 5-part miniseries. An additional 8 episodes were also produced for syndication. The desirable figures from this line are most certainly Tendril, Metlar, and Decompose, which are the large 16-inch monsters. A second series of toys was planned, but was shelved after the cancellation of the cartoon series.
Sold separately from Hasbro.
So next up, we have the fantastic Inhumanoids toy line, created by Hasbro in 1986. These figures are just astonishing, and every vintage toy collector, I'm sure, will want some of these in their collection. You can see the detail that went into these guys. That is Metlar, and that's one of the human characters, Augur. There's Granok and Redlin. There's Magnacore back there. I don't have his faceplate that went over the front of him. And of course, there is Tendril. These are huge figures, guys. Tendril and Metlar, they're about 16 inches high, I believe. I do not have Decompose at the moment. He's the other large scale figure. He's kind of like a vulture skeleton man. The only one I had as a boy, and this is my original one that I had as a child, was a Granok. I think my parents picked him up at a yard sale, and I played with him a lot back in the day. He's kind of beat up. He's got a lot of paint wear around his face and whatnot. But he was well loved and well played with. But I've always loved the Inhumanoids toy line for their monsters and savage details that Hasbro put into it. And I'm going to turn off the lights here and show you an additional feature of this toy line. So all of the Inhumanoids monsters had a transparent plastic piece that you could shine a light through and create a pretty evil and wicked look to these monsters if you shined a light in on them. I'm going to bounce over here to Tendril. I think the green eyes look pretty wicked myself. But again, just a very cool feature that adds to the spookiness of this toy line.
Mad balls, gross for one, gross for all. We play with a mad ball, they're gross, funny, yucky, sick. There's 8, so you can take your pick.
Mad Balls were created by Amtoy in 1985, which was a subsidiary of American Greetings. That's right, the same company who would later create My Pet Monster. The line consisted of soft foam balls in the shape of creepy characters like Slobulus, Skullface, Dustbrain, Wolf Breath, and Snakebait. 2 series of 8 balls each were produced, as well as 3 Super Mad Balls in the shape of a football, soccer ball, and basketball. The line also produced water-squirting Madballs, wind-up figures, and head-popping action figures. 2 direct-to-video cartoons were released in 1986 and 1987, as well as a 10-book comic book series from Marvel that ended in 1988.
Freaky fun for everyone, sold separately from Amtoy.
Madball.
So here are a few of my Madballs that I have in my collection. I'm not a huge Madball collector, although I should be because I love horror and horror-related toys. But these are ones that I picked up over the years at flea markets and yard sales. And the thing is, I don't own any actual Madballs. I only own knockoff versions of them. Like this is a knockoff of Slobulus from the original series of Madballs. It's not foam, it's a plastic. This is another version of Slobulus, knockoff version. And here's a knockoff eyeball. This is foam that I found at a yard sale for like $0.25. One of the most famous knockoffs is the Bonkers Ugly Ball. It was a mail-away promotion from Bonkers Candy. You could mail in and get an Ugly Ball. And here I thought this was an original Bonkers Ugly Ball, but this is a knockoff of a knockoff. So I guess the original Ugly Ball had stitches that ran across the side of his face, and this one does not. Although it's really close, this really looks like the Bonkers Ugly Ball that you would see in the advertisements. And then along with the knockoffs, you had the little 25-cent ones that you could get out of the gumball machines back in the day. These are kind of cool. Various evil and spooky faces, and this one goes along with the Bonkers Ugly Ball knockoff, as you can see. Very similar. So Madballs certainly deserve to be on our top 5 of our spookiest and scariest vintage Halloween toys. Now here are some toy lines that didn't make the cut. Sink your fangs into these bonus bites.
In planets long ago, a genetic experiment fails. A civilization dies. The result, the Sectors, a strange combination of man and insect.
The Sectars, Warriors of Symbion, were released in 1985 by Coleco. The figures were based on a classic hero versus villain storyline of mutant bugmen led by Dargon and Spydrax. Each figure came packaged with a mini-comic, much like Masters of the Universe, to present the story and characters to the children. A 5-part cartoon miniseries was also produced and aired in syndication in 1985. The marketing lauded hands-in action figures as a selling point. The giant insects that the figures rode on were actually hand puppets, creating a pretty darn cool play experience for kids. The Hive playset is still a highly desirable piece for most toy collectors. A second series of toys was planned for 1986, but was canceled after poor sales and stiff competition from other brands. While not extremely popular, the Sectars still left their mark on 80s toy lovers with their take on futuristic mutant insect men.
The defenses left by the ancients in the mysterious hive. Sectors by Coleco.
Hi, I'm a Boglin. Me and my buddies want to be your friend, right, guys? Right.
Boglins were monstrously creepy hand puppets released in 1987 by Mattel. Created by a group of Jim Henson Company alumni, the puppets featured movable mouths and eyes and came in various forms of goblins and troll-like creatures. Boglins were originally brought to Coleco to expand upon their Sectars toy line, but were not picked up. 3 original larger-scale Boglins were produced: Dwark, Vlob, and Drool, along with a line of smaller hand puppets. The creatures came packaged in crate-like boxes with plastic jail cell bars, which added to their appeal on store shelves. The line only lasted 2 years, but made a lifelong impact on horror-loving children everywhere.
Hey, the name's Boglins, each sold separately, and we're looking for good homes. Maybe yours?
So here we are at number 1. Was there ever any doubt? The Real Ghostbusters by Kenner takes in the top spot for the scariest and spookiest vintage toy line of the 80s.
There's something strange in the neighborhood.
So who you gonna call? Ghostbusters!
The Real Ghostbusters toy line was released by Kenner in 1986 and ran through 1991. Capitalizing on the success of the 1984 blockbuster film, the Real Ghostbusters cartoon series was produced in 1986, which ran for 7 seasons across 6 years. The toys and cartoons featured Peter, Egon, Ray, and Winston, with an array of spectral ghouls causing mayhem in New York City. Kenner produced meticulous pieces for this line, including the Firehouse playset and the Ecto-1 vehicle. Another fantastic play feature was the multicolored ectoplasm that could be used to slime our favorite phantom fighting team. The Real Ghostbusters is still one of the most desirable and collected lines in the toy collecting community.
So here is most of my collection of the Real Ghostbusters line by Kenner. I have all 4 of the main Ghostbusters. There's Peter Venkman, Winston Zeddemore, Ray Stantz, and Egon Spengler with their proton packs. And there's some of the mini ghosts that the figures came packaged with. There's Sludge Bucket. And I have the Fright Features Ghostbusters. There's the werewolf monster up there, an ex-cop. There's the Green Ghost, otherwise known as Slimer. Stay Puffed. The Mummy Monster, Granny Gross. And of course the fantastic Ecto-1 vehicle. That orange ghost there came with the Ecto-1. This was always a favorite of mine as a kid. A lot of the times as a kid I only had maybe 1 or 2 figures from a toy line other than Ninja Turtles and Dick Tracy. But this one I had Peter. I think that is my original Peter Venkman figure actually. And I had the Ecto-1 and Ex-Cop and Granny Gross and the bug-eyed monster there, the purple guy, and Sludge Bucket, along with some ectoplasm. So I'm going to show you some of these fright features that these figures came with. Here we have Ex-Cop, and his legs and arms extend down to reveal bones. And there's a little button on his back there, his pouch, that you hit and reveal his skeleton face. And here we have the Mummy Monster from the Monsters line. It's a line that they created with various Universal monster characters like Dracula and the Wolfman. And this is the Mummy figure. You squeeze his legs and his bandages fall off on his head and his arm falls off. And you have these delightful, scary features. And then you have good old Granny Gross, who looks like a standard grandma, but as you stretch her body, she reveals vicious fangs and a huge jaw and a hidden eyeball as well. This was always kind of one of my favorites as a kid. Then here are a couple of my carded Real Ghostbusters figures. I bought these in the package because I had these 2 as a kid, and I just kind of wanted to have them in their original carded state with the fantastic artwork that Kenner put on their cards. This is the bug-eyed ghost here. I have a great memory of my grandma getting this figure for me back in the day. I'll show you the back of the card here. It's probably been a while since some of you have seen the back of a Real Ghostbusters card, as this is one of the original ghosts that they came out with. So this is one of the earliest cards. You can see the copyright date there is 1986. They always put 84 on there as well because that's when the movie came out, but the cartoon series was 86. There's the ectoplasm, and there's the Gooper Ghosts, Sludge Bucket that I had as a kid. There's a list of the figures and characters. They also had role-play toys as well, the Ghost Zapper and the Ghost Popper. And then here is the Mummy one, the Mummy Monsters. These came out later, and you can see that the toy line had expanded quite a bit at this point. and all sorts of different characters, and Fright feature Ghostbusters, and additional vehicles and ghosts with vehicles. There's the Highway Haunter and the Firehouse. There's the Screaming Hero figures and the monsters as well. Fantastic toy line by Kenner, and highly deserves the top spot in our countdown.
We've come to the end, kiddies. I hope you enjoyed this frightfully fun and evil episode of ReeYees Retro Toys, as we counted down the top 5 scariest vintage toy lines of the 80s. Check your pulse and check your closets. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for all of your vintage toy needs. Pleasant dreams.